Welcome back to your weekly dose of nostalgia. I am back to give you a Twilight Zone breakdown that has a connection to the future award-winning film, Sinners. In an interview, the director Ryan Coogler said that this specific Twilight Zone episode gave him a little bit of inspiration for Sinners. Ladies and gentlemen, theys, thams, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandmas, and grandpas, this is Season 3, Episode 23 of the Twilight Zone. The Last Rites of Jeffrey Myrtlebank. Hold on! The episode opens up at everybody's favorite event, a funeral. I said, Rod, what are we doing? And these two children, we'll call them Beavis and Butthead, they go up to the window and they peep in like they're gonna see something exciting. Babes, it's a funeral. Turns out that these kids are just trying to peep into a funeral as if it is the Cowboy Carter tour. Girl, walk in. It's a funeral. What you outside for? Then the pastor, who looks like the Wizard of Oz, thanks the congregation for coming. Y'all, the congregation was all of 17 people, and I know this because I counted. I said, what kind of person was this to have a 17-person funeral? Babes, all of my grandparents packed the church. Do you hear me? Baby, it was people outside the door. I ain't never seen anything like it. So this was a culture shock to me. In fact, completely unrelated. But in the comments, please tell me the biggest funeral you've ever been to in your life. I need to know. This is when we learned that this is the funeral of Jeff Myrtlebank. And apparently everybody really loved him. And Pastor Wizard of Oz says, you know, he didn't always show up to church on Sunday, but we didn't see him at the bootleggers on Saturday either. What? This is why I love old television, because that is ridiculous to say at somebody's funeral. And as he's saying, we all know that the Lord moves in mysterious ways. A gentleman in the front row notices something that quite literally would have sent me to my grave. He notices the coffin lifting. You know how the coffin lifts at Disney World and the Haunted Mansion? How it's that man inside? That is what this man experiences at this funeral, and it's a no for me, dog. I'm out. And shortly after, everyone starts to notice it, because not only does this man open the casket, he opens the casket and sits up. No, ma'am. There is one singular scream. And this is when I know this is television, because quite frankly, at any of the funerals I've ever attended, if somebody lifted up out of that coffin, we will put him right back in. You're not coming. We love you. We love the spirit that used to be you. But no, ma'am. I don't know about y'all, but my folks from Louisiana, baby, ain't no way we watching somebody come up out that coffin. We are about to take the nearest garlic clove and smash it into your forehead. You're crazy. So everybody runs back to their cars and they're frantic. And the camera pans over to Uncle Rod. And he says, we were just witnessing a funeral, but that funeral did not go as planned due to a fallout from the Twilight Zone. And this is when I would have said, Uncle Rod, hey, usually I'm with you. I want to see how this is going to turn out. I actually don't need to see where this is going to go, because nothing that died and came back to life ever did me any good except for Jesus Christ. And this man is not him. Okay, not a man out of the Midwest that had 17 people in his funeral. No, ma'am. But y'all know, as Rod Serling, self-acclaimed black play niece and y'all's modern day griot, I had to break it down anyway. So after Jeffrey gets out of his coffin, he walks out. Actually, we're not calling him Jeffrey. This man's name is now Jethro, because we don't know who he is or where he came from. He walks outside and says, who in tarnation put me in that coffin? Babes, I'm about to put you back. So this is when Pastor Wizard of Oz comes outside and he's like, hey, y'all, calm down. Jethro, okay, we was at your funeral. He's like, what you mean you at my funeral? I'm alive. To which Pastor Wizard of Oz is like, yeah, but girl, you died 2 days ago. And so we buried you because that's what you do to dead bodies. He's like, even the doctor said that you were dead. They pan over to the doctor. Doctor's like, honey, your heart stopped beating 3 days ago. I don't know why you're outside and standing up. He's like, well, obviously my heart is beating now because I'm alive. This is when the doctor tells us that this man actually had a flu that was one of the worst cases he had ever seen, and that he was surprised that he made it past Wednesday. The man died on Friday. He was like, girl, you should have died on Wednesday, actually, because your numbers were terrible. So Jethro was like, well, honey, I'm about to call whatever 1920s medical school you went to and tell them they need to retract that degree because I'm alive. And then he tells them, thank God you didn't embalm me. Good Lord. Now, here's the other thing, because why didn't he embalm him? Now I'm with Jethro, because why didn't you embalm me? So Pastor Wizard of Oz is like, well, how do you feel? He's like, I mean, I'm a little weak, but super well rested and very hungry. I can eat the hide off of a bear. And that's exactly when I would have went and got that silver spoon and that wooden steak, because no, man. He even runs up to his parents and he's like, Mom, Paul, these people are terrified, as they should be. And this fool is like, oh, I bet y'all got a real good supper ready for me. His mama is like, girl, I don't know who you are, but I was preparing supper for the repast, not for my actual dead son. He even walks up to somebody who used to be his fiance when he was actually alive, and he's like, I bet you're not afraid of me. Once again, terrified. Now, she does look a little bit more relieved than his parents, but she still looks afraid. There is only one person in this entire crowd that is genuinely happy to see him, and that is Liz. She runs up to him and hugs him. I said, the Lord protects babies and fools, and sweetheart, you are both of them, because there's absolutely no way. And because Liz does that, everybody's like, I guess we just made a grave mistake, no pun intended. However, this actually used to happen in real life. That's where the term saved by the bell comes from. There used to be people who used to pass away, but really they just were in a coma. They would bury them, and then they would basically wake up from their coma and be buried alive. So because they discovered that that was happening, they put a little bell signal in there so that if you woke up after you died, you could ring the bell, and then somebody taking care of the cemetery would know that you were alive and they could take you out. I am not making this up. I wish I was. Look it up. I'm going to drop an article right here. So the show Saved by the Bell, that makes it a lot darker than what it is. Anyway, so this is when the doctor comes back and he's like, I got to cover my butt somehow because, girl, the way that 1920s UK medical was about to come for him, he's like, I know what this is. It's a new medical term that they call ipso suspendo animation. First of all, you couldn't make up something better than that. Ipso suspendo animation sounds like I'm quite literally about to take Mickey Mouse and pick him up. That's like ipso suspendo. Like what in the Harry Potter spell did you just say? He's like, it's super rare. In fact, it's only been about 15 cases in the last 30 years. And his parents are like, no, you're literally just saying that because you don't want us to come after you and get your money that we know you all have because your suit is a lot nicer than the rest of ours. So the doctor is like, I mean, yeah, of course you wouldn't have heard of anything because it's super rare. But anyway, take that boy home and get him some soup. The mama's like, you know what? I'm gonna fry you up a good rabbit. Hey, I'm here to tell y'all this right now. Whenever my time is my time, if I decide to come back, one, take me out. Don't let me come back because I should not be wanting to come back to pay these taxes and these bills anymore. So I'm obviously out of my mind. Number two, rabbit? If I come back in my right mind, I'm probably not asking for no rabbit. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I want some charboiled oysters, specifically from Louisiana, and some crab legs. Thank you so much. Just so y'all know. So about 2 weeks go by and you see him eating breakfast with his parents. And he says a word that I literally had to Google. He says that was a larruping good breakfast, Ma. Y'all, I had to Google this because I said I've never heard this word in my life. Larruping, Larruping, adverb, chiefly Western U.S. Very / exceedingly is what this word means. That was a larruping good meal. Honey, the things that Rod Serling has taught me, insane. As he leaves for the day, his mom is like, you know, these last 2 weeks, he's been acting a little bit different. He's not the way that he used to be. In fact, today he only ate 2 eggs again. Ever since he was little, he's always eaten 3 eggs. Girl, yeah, he only ate 2 eggs because he's not the person that you put in the ground 2 weeks ago. That's why he only ate 2 eggs. The 3rd egg that he's gonna eat is gonna be a child because he's a vampire. So the dad even says, yeah, you know what? And he was really lazy before he died the first time. Now he just works all day. They called him shiftless, said that he was shiftless before he passed. Meanwhile, the little sister Lizzie is kind of sitting at the table like, y'all just gonna talk about my brother in front of me? This is when the father says something that I will be taking. He says, all right, big ears, go ahead and go down there and see if my magazine is in that mailbox. He called the child big ears because she was being nosy. He'll be taking that. Big ears is hilarious. So Lizzie goes to check on the magazine in the mailbox. Beavis and Butthead that we met earlier are there playing with slingshots. And they tell her the mailman hasn't been there yet. Then they ask, how's your brother doing? She's like, I mean, he's all right, but Ma and Pa are a little bit worried because he's just not the person that he used to be. And he's just always fiddling with stuff. In the next scene, we run into our second nosy child that a parent has to put in their place. This mother is on the phone, and this child, which I believe is one of the Beavis and Butthead twins, is sitting there listening to her conversation. And she said, you need to get up out of here. You cannot be listening to my phone call. He's like, okay, but I want to hear what you're saying. Which I know why this makes me so weak, because this was me as a child. I wanted to hear everything that my mom was talking about on that phone. I wanted to know the gossip. I wanted to know the tea. And in so many words, she tells him that she'll put some black pepper in his mouth if he talks back to her one more time and he needs to get up out this room like she said. And to that I said, happy Mother's Day. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead and get up out of here. And once that child leaves, she gets back on the phone. She like, my bad, girl. I had to kick these kids up out of here because they wanted to listen to my conversation. Anyway, I know for a fact that they are in there terrified and that he is in there acting like a complete stranger. It's a mess. Then they pivot to what looks like maybe a saloon or something. And the boys are in the saloon talking about him too. Like, yeah, ain't no way I'd be in that house with that thing. Apparently he in there playing with axes now. The doctor walks in. The doctor's like, look, I'm not one to gossip, so I don't know what's going on and I really don't care. In fact, all y'all in here need to mind y'all business because y'all could be next. So one of the other workers is like, well, the doctor did say that he had that rare sickness. He's like, hold on, you got me because I might have lied just a little bit to get through that day. I needed to get them off my back. The man came back to life and he was under my care. We cannot move forward. Then the doctor tells us, actually, I did a couple of tests when his parents left that room. And one, he was dead. But two, his body was not responding to anything. I pricked him with the pen. He did not respond. I put a mirror up to his mouth and his nose. It did not fall. The man was dead. I don't care what y'all say. I know he alive now, but I'm about to get my drink and get up out of here. So the town gossip says something that I must say I agree with. He says, how do we know that that's really Jeff Myrtlebank that got up out that coffin? Everybody in there is like, you know, I don't think we want to talk about that. He's like, well, I will, because my grandmama said that evil spirits will do that. They will go and find a body that ain't even cold yet and crawl in it and then crawl up out that coffin like nothing happened. In the next scene, we are at his fiance's house and we found out that her name is Comfort. This is the countryest name, Comfort. Lord help us. And somebody tells Comfort, okay, now, when he come up in here, you need to talk to him and see why he being weird. And she's like, y'all need to leave my man alone. Yes, he is back from the dead, but he's fine. And her brother, whose name is Orgram, says, you know what, I bet all y'all kids will be born with horns, and that's your business. So Jethro knocks on the door, and he's invited in. If you know, you know, he's invited in. And she's like, how are your folks doing? He's like, oh, they're pretty good. But my mama's going to be a little bit mad because I took some roses from her garden. Y'all, he pulls the roses from behind his back and presents them to her. All the roses are dead. All the roses that he just picked are dead roses. So she goes to put some music on. He comes behind her like to hug her and she snatches away. And he's like, now what's wrong? Now I understand how everybody else being weird and calling me a vampire, but you my girlfriend. I don't understand why you acting like this. She said, girl, you just picked those flowers and they were dead when you presented them to me. You think that I'm not going to freak out from that? And as if this was going to make it better, Jethro then goes in for a kiss and Comfort pulls away. Jethro's had it. Girl, the way he flicked that hat out his pocket, put it on and walked out that house and went to his car and started to start it up. Now you remember this is the 1920s. So when people are starting cars, kids, it's not a key. Okay, it's actually you going to the front of your car, taking a handle and revving it up. Imagine how it looks for you to have an attitude and instead of going into your car, slamming the door closed and turning the ignition, you have to go to the front of the car and wind it up. Baby, I would hate everything about that. You don't even look cool no more. You don't even look cool trying to be mad. So Orgram and Comfort's mom come out and they're like, you look scared. What's going on? And she's like, nothing. Orgram's like, you know what? I ain't liked him since we was 3 years old. He goes outside and he goes to confront Jethro. So when you walk outside, Jethro still hasn't gotten his car to start, mind y'all. He's been doing it for a solid 3 minutes, okay? And Orgram is like, hey, it's about to be me and you and mostly me. And Jethro was like, girl, please. Orgram also says, verbatim, if I had 10 cents for every time I whooped you, I would have $100. And Jethro was like, yeah, but you haven't whooped me lately. And that is when you should have went back in the house because you are talking to a man that came back from the dead. I don't know if you have a chance this time, babes. And one of the most ridiculous fights I've ever seen choreographed on television ensues. And in fact, Jethro tags him. And I said, this is why you should have went back in that house to your mama and them and ate that rabbit and shut up. Because I told you, this man came back from the dead, okay? He's not your friend and he's not the person that you used to beat up when y'all were in elementary school. The doctor comes and he checks Orgram out and he tells him, you're an idiot. Your jaw is not broken. If your jaw was broken, you wouldn't be able to talk so much, but you should check out that dandruff. I'm not even kidding. He literally says this. So as the doctor is checking him out, the rest of the town folk have come around and they're like, All right, now how did he beat you up? Because you've been beating him up since y'all were in elementary school. He's like, I told y'all, that is not the guy that died. That is a different man. The way he is fighting is completely different. He is trained. And we know Jeff ain't had no formal boxing training. So that man is not Jeff. Now, while all this is going on, Comfort is also there, but she's just kind of in the back listening. And when she hears that they're about to come after him, she sneaks out and she goes and she tells Jethro. And she's like, girl, they about to come get you and try to kick you out the country. Country as in the area, not the United States of America, okay? They definitely could not afford that. And of course, Jethro was like, okay, but you just dissed me the other day. So I don't understand why you are coming over here to tell me this when you, in addition to your brother, want me to get out of here as well. And she's like, you know what? No, I changed my mind because I'm loyal and I'm actually going to stick to whoever I decide to marry. And Jethro was like, you know what? I love you too. And just as they are saying this, we hear a crowd of folks coming back. Baby, they done loaded up that jalopy and they are rounding that corner. Coming for Jethro or Jeffrey or whoever they coming for. They pull up to Jeffrey and they say, now we as a community are telling you to leave because we have all come to the conclusion that you are not Jeffrey Myrtlebank. You are a haint. Now I want us to remember back to Sinners when Annie quite literally said, are these haints or are these vampires? And once she saw what they were doing, she said, no, these ain't haints. This is much worse. This is definitely a vampire. They just used that exact same word. And they said, we don't know who you are, who you came from, but you definitely stole Jeff's body and you need to give him back immediately. Well, Jeffrey looks at them and says, well, that's up to my fiance. I just asked her a question to see if she was gonna marry me. And depending on her answer tells me what I will do. And Comfort comes up to him and she's like, yes, I will marry you. So he turns to the crowd and he's like, you heard what she said. I'm not going anywhere. We will stay in this county and we will raise our children here. And then Jeffrey tells them, if you're wrong about me, you're dumb. Because quite literally, I could just be a poor country boy like the rest of y'all. But if you're right, you better be very cute about how you treat me, okay? Because you don't know what I can do if you're right. He said, I may go ahead and wave my right hand and bring some locusts down on your crops. Now leave me be. And this is when the townspeople completely flip the script. They're like, you know what? Y'all get married. Let us know when you get married. Girl, we will throw a very nice picnic and make sure that y'all have everything that you need. It'll be very nice. All right, girl, we'll talk to you later. You just let us know what you could do. I said he had them shook, okay? They come 180. So as soon as they drive away, Comfort is like, you couldn't really do all that, could you? Now, while she asks him this, Jeffrey has a pipe in his mouth and he's about to smoke it. Y'all, she notices that the match that he has in his hand lights without him striking it as he's saying, nah, I can't do any of that. He also says, I hate lying to him, but you know, sometimes you got to do that just to get people off your back as he ignites a match without striking it against anything. And she notices it. And so she asks, how did you like that without striking it against anything? He says, baby, you gotta stop imagining things. This is literal gaslighting. And this is when the viewers realize the townspeople were right the entire time. This man is not Jeffrey. I've been calling him Jethro because he quite literally is not somebody that went into that ground. He is in fact a haint. He does in fact have powers and Comfort clocked it, but is just too dumb to actually do anything about it. And when they were walking away, I thought that he was going to turn around the way that Michael Jackson did in the Thriller, but he didn't. And Rod Serling comes on and he tells us Comfort and Jeffrey are still alive today. They're doing well. And their only son is a United States senator. That is very weird. And a lot of people think that he got his education from the Twilight Zone. I see how Ryan Coogler was inspired by this episode because it is a good one, but also if you have not seen Sinners, please go see it in the movie theaters. It is a fantastic film. All right, y'all. See you next week.